Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Nathan, and you've probably noticed that The Last Guardian is finally out this week. This is a game I've been waiting for an incredibly long time. I actually went to see the game being made in Tokyo in 2011, and they had it running, and it looked good on PlayStation 3. But here we are 5 years later, and now I have actually finally played the game. And I wanted to make a video explaining why I think it's so special. And so this is really a feature about the relationship at the centre of the game. But more than that, it's also about the other games brought to us by that same team, led by director Fumito Ueda. And the other games that they've made are Ico from 2001 and Shadow of the Colossus, which followed in 2005. And the thing I want to trace here really is what makes these games so special and what this team has done that I don't think anyone else has really managed. When I first saw Ico, it was in this box. This is the limited edition European box, and this is probably in 2002 or 2003 when I first got my PlayStation 2. It looked immediately different to everything else on the shelves. These two tiny figures in an imposing world of towers and shadows. And it was unusual, it looked unusual, the setting is unusual. There's something very gentle and quiet, but also anxious about the game. You start the game as a boy who's been abandoned in this apparently ruined and desolate place. And you begin to explore, and it's wonderfully heavy with atmosphere. There's a kind of a hush about it, of the unknown. Playing it actually had that sense almost of being in a church, you know, where everything is so delicate and beautiful that even whispering might somehow spoil it. At the heart of the game, really the emotional core of Ico, it comes down to the relationship between the boy and a ghostly princess that you find locked up almost like a birdcage. This is your companion, Yorda. I've often thought since, why is their relationship so powerful? And I think it's because it's largely unspoken. Ueda said this was in order to express something more than words are capable of. And what it ends up doing is putting an emphasis on the physical actions of these characters, which isn't just solving puzzles and moving over obstacles within this world and helping each other out, but it's also just their body language. So the boy is small and his weapon looks so big. It's almost like someone playing at being a grown-up. It's incredibly endearing, and Yorda is taller than him but vulnerable and hesitant, and the way that they help each other out without saying anything is really effective. There's just something completely good about their relationship. The game doesn't tell you this to start out, it doesn't really explain anything, it's part of the charm of the game, but there's a button you can use and it will make the boy take Yorda's hand. And you can lead her around the castle and help to guide her to different places. And discovering that for the first time in an era when games buttons were normally jump or shoot or pick this up, and instead to reach out and hold somebody, it was this kind of incredible moment of intimacy. Although my favourite thing is actually the way that you save your progress in the game, which is to sit on these stone sofas which are littered around the levels, and when you do, you and Yorda collapse into sleep like two kids at a slumber party. And I'm still not sure I've really enjoyed being anywhere in PlayStation as much as I enjoyed being on that sofa. So Ico was an incredible wordless love story, and it was so unconventional that it was difficult to see how it could be followed up. And then Shadow of the Colossus came along, and it was clear that what this team was trying to do was not deliver a continuation of the story, but instead it was a continuation of these themes and ideas. They felt like they came from the same place somehow. And it's a game which is also about companionship, but this time in the form of loss. So we start with our hero arriving at some kind of ancient temple. He's on his horse and he's carrying the body of a woman. And it seems like he will do anything for her. He's like a dark, grown-up version of Ico, whose story hasn't turned out well. In the temple, he summons some kind of ancient being and he asks it to bring her back. And this being says, this is possible, you shouldn't do it, but it's possible, but there's a price, there's something you'll have to do for me. And what that is to kill a number of enormous beasts. Along the walls of the temple are several stone idols, and these creatures that our hero has to kill, we're told that these are incarnations of these idols. They're kind of manifestations of gods, of something unfathomable and sacred, and it's your job to kill them. And this is the game. It takes the scale of Eco, which was in the castle and in the kind of the sense of wilderness and emptiness, and it transposes it onto an entire landscape. It's you and it's your horse Aggro, and you can ride for what seems like miles and miles, tracking down these creatures that you have to kill. And when you find them, they're huge and lumbering, but they don't seem to be doing much wrong. And they also, with hindsight now, having played The Last Guardian, they also seem a lot like Trico. Just the scale of them and the details and the design of the armour that some of them wear, and the animalistic body language and the contradictory idea of the vulnerability of these enormous and powerful beings, which is something which The Last Guardian does so well. You can see the team's ideas moving around and forming together through the games in different ways. I guess related to that, the game's active companionship is between the warrior and his horse, and a bit like the relationship between Yorda and the boy in Eco, this is one formed through action. This is your constant travelling companion. You're on this adventure together. He helps you to find the Colossi. He helps you deliver your lost love to the temple. It's a wordless bond, and it's more touching for that. So Shadow of the Colossus was in 2005, and we've been waiting 11 years for the follow-up in The Last Guardian. But before we get to The Last Guardian, I think it's probably worth talking about the influence that these games had on a generation of games developers after they were released on PlayStation 2. We can all see it in perhaps smaller and more artistic games. I think Journey always springs to mind. There's Limbo, or the relationship in something like Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. But it's also there in some of PlayStation's biggest and most mainstream games. When I first went to Naughty Dog to cover the announcement of The Last of Us, Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann spoke about how Eco made them want to build a relationship of real emotional intensity just through gameplay. And the first attempt, they said, was with Nathan Drake and Tenzin in Uncharted 2, which was this companionship built in the ice caves through traversal, a bit like Eco.
Don't suppose you speak any English, do you, pal?
And then it was really brought to a climax in the level where you race through the Himalayan village to save Tenzin's daughter.
Tenzin!
Bima, Kunchoke.
This then formed the basis for an entire game built around this same idea, which was, of course, The Last of Us. For such a small boy, Eco casts a really long shadow. And that brings us to The Last Guardian, and what is for me the biggest achievement of the game in my experience so far. So again, we have the returning elements reconfigured. There's an abandoned boy, there's his animal companion, but now the companion is given the immense size and strength and fragility of the Colossi from the previous game. To play The Last Guardian for more than 2 minutes is to worry about Trico in a profound way. Ueda and his team have captured something innate and uncannily accurate about the way that he moves. He can be stubborn, he can be shy, he can be affectionate, he always seems so heartbreakingly innocent somehow. The Last Guardian for me is just a collection of things that I adore. I love the boy, I think he's perfect. I like how bright he is, how alert and nimble he is. He reminds me of Eco, but he has this kind of tumbling agility which just seems so natural, and I love it. I love the world, which is of this, I've not seen that much of it yet, but the scale of it is transportive. And within that world, the way it's lit, the lighting, the rustle of the grass, just the way that the boy's hair and Trico's feathers shift in the wind. I can stand still in the game and have an incredible time. But it's like all these wonderful things, what they're doing is pulling into focus that central relationship, that thing that these games have been doing for 15 years, building profound and involving relationships in worlds of kind of inexplicable adversity and mystery. And that, to finally reach the point of this video and connect it to its title, that is why The Last Guardian is a must-play game, because it's not like a game, it's like a whole relationship of an order that you never thought was possible. Thank you for watching this video, which is essentially a love letter to Eco, Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, and a celebration of the fact that The Last Guardian is finally here and not only lives up to the legacy of these other games, but plays with the same ideas at the same level. And I just think people who fell in love with those games or have played games influenced by them are going to get a lot out of it. Like this video if you enjoyed it. We might make more like this in the future. Give us a comment below, let us know what you think about The Last Guardian. Do subscribe to PlayStation Access, we have loads more coming up.